Freude schöner Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium. Wir betreten feuertrunken, himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine Zauber binden wieder, was die Mode streng geteilt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt.
Well, Stephan, my connection with Eleanor Roosevelt was in Paris in '48 when the Declaration of Human Rights was proclaimed. And it was proclaimed unanimously because we had a meeting on the 9th and so forth. And she was very happy that it was proclaimed unanimously because of our meeting, the communist bloc didn't obtain it, they abstained. So that's my connection historically with this wonderful woman.
Malgré l'attention soudaine du délégué soviétique, M. Wyszynski, et les remous provoqués dans l'assistance par cette intervention inattendue, les propos du citoyen du monde numéro 2 n'auront pas troublé longtemps les travaux de l'ONU. Le règlement est ainsi respecté. Mais est-il toujours bon de respecter les règlements? Garry Davis, premier citoyen du monde, s'était élevé à la tribune du Vélodrome d'hiver.
Nous n'avons pas d'illusions sur les difficultés que nous attendent. Mais nous devons choisir entre les difficultés et les massacres de la guerre. Moi, j'ai choisi. Et vous?
Garry Davis et M. Evans sont au fond d'accord, le désir de paix est partout. Mais où en sont les chemins?
Yeah, we had a meeting the night before the voting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the Velodrome d'hiver. 20,000 people showed up and all claiming to be world citizens. So the next day they voted for the Declaration of Human Rights, but the communist bloc abstained. And Eleanor Roosevelt was very happy about our meeting because it may have been because of that the declaration was voted unanimously.
But the important thing is, as a younger citizen of the world and a researcher and a book writer discovered, later on, within a few years, most of these people disappeared. So a lot of people take this like a party. Yes, oh, it's nice. It's at the moment it's fashion to be a citizen of the world. But as they should start to act as citizens of the world, so it starts them to trouble them and say, well, popped out of the whole thing. For example, as you know, my consequences of being a world citizen was that in 1989 I refused in Germany the military service. Yes, you have the duty normally in Germany at this time to go to military service. Right. And I said, no, I won't do this. I'm a citizen of the world and I cannot serve in a national army. Yeah? And you have not a global army, a UN army at the moment, so sorry. And they say, well, you can be a war resistor on the reason, Jesus, I cannot see any blood, be a Quaker, but this is too political to say I am a citizen of the world. And my story, and for a while I worked at United Nations as a correspondent. So I rewrite my drafts there at the United Nations headquarters, being there in New York City, but this time on UN stationery. So, and this UN stationery, well, it was a little bit tricky to pick it up, yes, but I have some good connections because I worked there at my first book on Boutros Ghali, yeah. So all knows, oh, this is a guy who collecting the speeches for Boutros Ghali and so on. So free, I use the fax machine of the United Nations, who putting on a line above United Nations and so on. I sent this to the German office who is in charge of war resistors in Cologne at this time, and say, see now, whoa, this guy knows the Secretary General, claiming world citizenship, being now in New York, and damned, what's going on there? And at this time, I did an interview with a Secretary of State from the German Foreign Ministry on the court on the law of sea, UN law of sea. And at the end, I asked him a question, but still my machine is running, is taping it, yes. I asked him, hey, Secretary of State, could it be possible that if I wanted to do a global civil service, not somewhere in Germany, but a global one, for example at United Nations, is this possible? And he said, he was a lawyer, he was surprised, but he said, well, he don't know any law in Germany who is against it. He never heard about the idea before, but well. And I tell these people in Cologne, hey guys, your Secretary of State told me that it is possible that I can do a civil service, let's say for example at the United Nations, yeah? And finally they accepted. At first they were a little bit, what to do, but I say, okay, you can put me like Garry, you can put me in jail. The first thing I will do, giving a press conference. So,
very good, very good. Use the press.
I learned something from you. And so they decided, oh well, don't give these guys again, these world citizens, too much public awareness. And so they decided, okay, on the basis of that you claim being a citizen of the world, we accept your draft as a war resistor, as a conscious objector, and you are free to do a civil service if you organize it by yourself. And so I organized myself a civil service at the United Nations, the disarmament department.
See, that's a good point, because you use the press, which means you're using the people, because you're getting your story out to the people. Yeah. And at the beginning of the world citizen movement, if you will, that was the press were our ambassadors. The only power we had was to get to the people of the world to support what we were doing. And that's what the That's what the Declaration of Human Rights, we took it and started running, and you did too.
Yeah.
You're a pioneer. I mean, there are very few people. You say, why doesn't it continue? Because the Declaration of Human Rights is not taught. It's not taught in schools. Nobody knows about it now, etc. 60 years later. Ask 100 people whether they ever heard of the Declaration of Human Rights. They'll say, we've heard of it, but we don't know what it is.
They cannot tell you what's in it, yeah.
Exactly. And you're one of the few people who just said, I know what's in it, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to run with it.
I'm not only a journalist and an active world citizen, I'm also a book writer.
Yeah,
and one of my books is also translated into English. It's a book about Dark Hammarskjoeld, where I also mentioned you and Eleanor Roosevelt and so on. And in this book I describe something I discovered, that in a time you were in Paris in '48 and Eleanor was also in Paris, and the struggle goes on. Do we sign this Declaration of Human Rights or don't we sign it? Dark Hammarskjold was also in Paris for 3 years because he was vice president of the Economic Council for the reconstruction of Europe, so economic reconstruction.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and a few people know it because it became later on famous as he was Secretary General of the United Nations in '53. Yeah. But the years before, nobody spent so much awareness on him.
That was 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly 5 years later. And Dag Hammarskjold attending from time to time meetings of the United Nations General Assembly as a guest of the Swedish delegation. And it's this date where you and Robert Sarrazak and Albert Camus, André Breton, all these other guys did this interruption and this proclamation.
And he was there?
He was there.
Oh, yeah, incredible.
He was there as a guest, and he viewed what's going on here. And this guy, 5 years later, Dag Hammarskjold became Secretary General of the United Nations.
What a coincidence. I never knew that.
And as you know now, I guess he's really the only Secretary General who tried to do some world citizen policy. Yeah, he's founding the blue helmets. If it is not in a charter, he make a stand against the veto powers. Yes, he even risked his life and, as we know it, get shot down in his airplane in '61.
Right.
So really, if some of these guys in a international governmental level was close to us, yes, I would say it was Dag Hammarskjoeld. And it Dag Hammarskjoeld, and it was very interesting how he must pick up in his years in Paris what's going on there with world citizenship, yeah, and keep it in his heart, yeah. And after getting Secretary General, he developed really not only human rights, he also developed something. He gave speeches where he mentioned global governance, he mentioned world citizenship. There's a book, a collection of his speeches where they have a whole chapter what he's speaking about world government, what he's speaking about world citizenship. I will give you the author and the book title and so on. So we can say, even if he cannot make an official plaque, I am being on the side of the world citizens, yeah, because he threw him out of the UN immediately. He go to a boundary, yeah, and really touch it. He try so much he can to put our thinking, our philosophy into UN action. So far it is possible inside this UN system, and this, I guess, is one of the reasons why they killed him at the end.
Well, I think you're one of the pioneers. You're a good example for young people of how to be a world citizen, how not to just think of it as theory, but as practice. You took it, you say, I am a world citizen, and this is how I'm acting. And I think that's a good example, and that has to be promulgated throughout the young people. Young people of the world are looking for that. But now we know the Declaration of Human Rights just as a theory now, but only humans can practice human rights. So the first thing you have to do is to claim it, and you were the first ones to do that in your context. So congratulations. I'm very happy to be here and hear this whole story, and I hope it gets spread around all the world now.
I'm looking also forward. Maybe we should also run like Arthur did, Arthur Kanagagas, who tries to get together this documentary film, this educational stuff. I'm also an educated teacher, and I run some programs with students, also with role games, yes, where they learn to act as citizens of the world, make a stand even against governments, learn more about the Human Rights Declaration. Of course, we are only a few in Germany and Austria, but this is a thing we should think more about it. Maybe also such a movie could be helpful, but we should really develop more educational programs where we can go to universities, where we can go to students to offer it. In Germany, for example, nearly every high school has once a year, 1 week free for some special topics, for some special teams, and so far my resources made it possible for me. I offer some of these schools, well, let's do a week about world citizenship and Declaration of Human Rights and so on, and some of the schools adopted, and so we do such a training week with students.
And that fits in perfectly with it. And that fits in perfectly with the tools they're now using. I mean, they're sitting in front of computers in schools, 7 years old, they're going online. So, you know, it's nothing new to them to recognize the world as one, because they have the world in front of them individually. That never happened when I was growing up. I don't know, well, maybe you had a computer when you were growing up in school, but I didn't. Now they're all sitting there in front of computers. So it's very easy for them to understand the fact that the world is one, they're in it, and they're operating it, because they're getting knowledge from every corner of the world.
One important question, and maybe my last one, I wanted to ask you ever since a few years, yeah, why you or what you're thinking. Sometimes I have the feeling we must do this stuff we did in '48 again in a huge international conference, do an interruption using mass media again. We are still here, and we are again here. this I think is something missing, because we are quicker than Greenpeace. We did in 48, the World Citizen did something later on in the 60s and 70s. Greenpeace picked up, yes, to step in at conferences, at huge public buildings, yes, with the activists, yes, and say, hello mass media, hello TV, here we are. So, but we did it in 48, and later on it got lost. Yes, we don't use this tool anymore. I guess now, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but it was great, really, to meet you on this special historic place of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt,
Right.
by the way, was a high-ranked Freemason. He was very familiar with this idea of humanity. It means something for him, and also for Eleanor, yes. And I'm glad that we both can meet today here, the 28th of September 2010, at this place, who means so much for Eleanor and Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Right, I agree 100%.
Good to speak with you, Garry.
Yeah, wonderful to be here. Thank you.